not OnePlus. I always say OnePlus. Oh boy,
Nothing.
nothing.
One plus nothing
Yeah,
is still one plus.
exactly. There's a blooper for the show. Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Friday, July 26, 2024, and I've got the excellent Nick Gray here. Hi, Nick. How are you?
I am excellent. It's been a busy week. End of the week. It's nice to finish it off with podcasts.
Oh, I'm glad. I want to tell the audience that I want to thank Nick for jumping in last second. My scheduled guest had an emergency. And so thanks so much, Nick, for subbing in so quickly. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
We have a bunch of rumors around Pixels, which, are coming imminently. And so obviously the rumor mill is cranking it up. Now, last week we talked about how Google, did the thing where they actually mitigated that by announcing, by teasing and whatever. But this week we're getting tech specs, you're getting a bunch of other stuff. And then Apple has a whole bunch of interesting phone rumors. Usually I leave Apple rumors away from the podcast, at least until it's closer to launch. These are rumors for 2026. They're really interesting. And I really want to hear your thoughts on that. And then we got a bunch of phone news from China, and I'd like to talk to you about earbuds. And there's so many of them that have come in our hands. You've got the Samsung ones. I do too. You probably have the OnePlus ones. You have the CMF ones as well. So let's chat about the state of buds and where you think things are going, because it's hard for me to kind of figure out how it can't just go down even further in price. Where are we going to end up is kind of what I want to know. Because, with phones, we've kind of reached a bit of an equilibrium. We know where we're at, right? But earbuds is still a little... Anyway.
It's the wild, wild west.
It is, isn't it? That's exactly what I was thinking. So, thoughts on that Pixel 9 series spec leak? Is it what you expected? Pretty much, right?
Pretty much, except for going down the list and seeing 16 gigabytes of RAM. Which
that surprised me too.
I wasn't expecting. So I think quick recap for anybody, we have two Pixel Pros, actually three Pixel Pros. We have a large and a mini, and then the Pro Fold. And all three of those, anything that has the Pro name, with this leaked spec sheet, which looks like it's just a screen grab from a retailer website or something like that, showing 16 gigabytes of RAM for all three devices. And then the regular Pixel 9 is going to have 12 gigs, which I think is an upgrade because I think the regular Pixel
those
8
numbers are
8 gigs.
Those numbers are unreal. I did not expect
those are like
Pixel.
Chinese manufacturer numbers. This is like red magic with a gaming phone. So I don't know. They're really beefing things up, and there's been that rumor from I think a leak last week about prices going up for this generation as well.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, seeing these numbers specifically with RAM, and RAM's gotten cheaper and cheaper over the years, and it's really come down the last 2 years. But even with that, I would say this deserves a little bit of a spec or a price bump going all the way up to 16 gigabytes, because I think this would be the first mainstream device in the US that we've had with 16 gigs.
I agree. I'm a little surprised, to be honest. I was thinking 8 gigs on the Pixel 9 and then 12 gigs across the board, maybe 16 on the folding phone. But even 16, as you said, it's unheard of for North America. What is Samsung out on the highest end fold they sell now? 12?
Yeah, they're 12 across the board for the Fold and the Ultra. So it's not...
Wow.
Yeah, this is definitely something in a different direction than what we've seen in the past from Google, but also other OEMs that are hitting the US market.
This tells me something, Nick. It tells me that perhaps all this new software, AI stuff that they're probably going to announce. Come on, we know that obviously the event on the 13th is going to be focused on the hardware, but you know how Google never really focuses on the hardware. They're kind of like Apple. And in a way, I get where they're coming from, right? They're really wanting to focus on the experience. And I think that this tells me that they're going to need some serious oomph under the hood for whatever they're going to be releasing software-wise. The other thing is, you said the pricing going up. I'm not surprised, because not just because of the RAM, but look at the specs. We're getting a full-on, high quality front facing sensor on the Pixel Pro non folding versions.
Yeah, it's
That
going
had
from 10.5 from the current gen to 42 megapixels.
and it's going to have autofocus like the current Pixel has, the Pro. So I think this is they're spending the money, and Tensor G4 isn't cheap to develop, I'm sure, especially when you're kind of a one trick pony and you only have one company making making products with that chip. Like it's not like you can spread the cost over a larger quantity of devices like Qualcomm and MediaTek can. Now, of course, they have Samsung as a partner here, but I'm just thinking this is, even if it goes up $100 per phone, like the Pixel 8a exists and it's really good and it's really affordable. So I've always thought that the Pixel 9 or 8 or 7 were way too close to the A series in pricing, especially with the
Mhm.
discounts that always kick in within a few weeks, right? What's your take on that? Do you think that's a way
Yeah,
to justify the price hike?
yeah, especially the last 2 years, the A series has been extremely close to the 7, 2 generations ago, and then the 8 this past year. When the 8, Pixel 8a came out, as far as the specs go, the camera quality was definitely a step down. But as far as like the performance of the device goes, you were simply left with, a device that didn't have as good as cooling. So the tensor chipset would get hotter. So, start throttling a little bit sooner if you were gaming. But as far as the overall performance, starting out, if you're just doing some light multitasking, you're really not going to notice that difference. But now that they're moving up the launch date, being, you know, August instead of October,
Before Apple really is the big change
yeah.
here.
Well, so they've moved it up a full 2 months. So that makes it a little bit more acceptable to me that the A series was so much closer to the A series, because if they keep the same cadence, if we're looking at Google I/O next year with the 9A, and then 3-ish months till the next generation, I think they'll try to keep the 9A current pricing a little bit, maybe step it up just a little bit. But if we are getting price increases here, I think that gives us more of a divide between the regular 9 and the eventual 9A that's going to be coming out, which justifies it a little bit more, having a higher spec and a lower spec. But I don't know. I think honestly, I think it's exciting that we're getting kind of this full family picture coming out with the 9, having the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro larger edition, the regular
Yeah.
9, and then the Pro Fold. It's just having a nice complete um, family picture as to what Google wants this device lineup to look like, rather than having things piecemealed a little bit like we did last year with the
Yeah.
7A coming out and then the Fold coming out, like announced at the same time, but the Fold came out, a couple months later, and then a month and a half later we had the Pixel 8 series. So the fact that we're getting 4 devices all at once and then wait till the spring, late spring, to get the 9A, I think is a good way to approach it.
Yeah. And I'm kind of excited to see also that, I mean, the camera specs are pretty much the same, but their new sensors supposedly. And again, the Pixel 9 Pro Fold also is getting a similar setup as before, which has proven to be actually really solid. So I'm not too worried about the cameras. Plus, all the new features and software and stuff that's going to make this go. So yeah, I think I'm really juiced up about these phones. I just have no idea because I'm with Team Pixel. I did reach out to Google PR and they said, you're with Team Pixel, so we can't invite you to the event, but you should be hearing from them soon. So I'm not sure what device they're going to send us, right? Like those of us on Team Pixel, are they going to send us it's going to be a Pro because usually they send us a Pro, but I have a feeling it's not going to be the Fold. So it's probably going to be the Pro or the Pro Excel. And I'm happy with either of those. Honestly, depending on what I know, when I know what's happening there, I might go out and buy the Fold if I don't get it from Team Pixel because
Mm-hmm.
I've been dreaming of, the Pixel that folds. Of course, there's the current Pixel Fold, but it just wasn't good enough for me to really jump in full on. especially, after spending months with the OnePlus Open. I need something a little more modern or, competitive, at least. So that's kind of
Yeah, I
where I'm
mean,
at.
I actually picked up the Pixel Fold a couple of weeks ago to reintroduce myself to it because I used it for maybe about a month last year, and then put it back in the drawer. And when the Pixel 8 Pro came out, switched over to that as my daily device. I honestly I feel with the software updates that they released throughout the year, they've improved that phone significantly over launch last year, and it was a joy to use over a week before I got the Samsung Galaxy Fold 6. So made that switch and put the fold back in the drawer again. um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see like if they have some new multitasking paradigms to take advantage of the multi-screen setup or the larger screen setup on the inside. Because as you said, with the OnePlus Open, I think the software experience on that is currently the best for a foldable large screen device.
Yeah.
And I think Google should be borrowing some of those ideas of how they're, tiling apps and, pushing them off the screen a little bit to move things around to use three applications at once. I think OnePlus has probably the best implementation as of right now.
I agree, and I also think there's hardware is kind of the one of the best you can get in North America right now in terms of the overall balance here. It's missing wireless charging, but that's about the only thing you can fault it for. The camera system is very very competitive, and if you look at Pixel Fold, of course, it feels a year old for sure now, and then you look at Galaxy, right? Z Fold 6 is very iterative, and certainly on the camera system, I mean, the results are fine. I'm using it right now and it's
Mhm.
totally okay. It's just more like, come on, where's my periscope telephoto that can give me something a little more here, right? And you're going to say, well, on paper, the Pixel specs don't look particularly better, and the folding one, but we know what the Pixel Fold could do last year with those specs, and it was, in my opinion, still better than a year ago than what the Fold 6 can do today. So
With
that's
the
kind of
cameras. Yeah.
like, I mean, there's a lot of improvements to the Fold hardware. I initially was very put off by the minimal upgrade that they provided. And then I started using the phone, and I have to say, like, it's pretty solid. Like, I still would prefer the Open for myself, but I think that we got to give Samsung some credit for the refinements actually pay off and add up and sum up into a bigger better experience, especially the thickness, the size, the shape, all those things. So I'm looking forward to this fold. I think this is going to be my next phone. This is kind of where I'm headed. I think I've been wanting to get a folding phone that's a Pixel, but the Pixel Fold just didn't quite do it for me. So, and you're right. I've revisited it regularly, and they've really improved the software, and it's really. But Tensor G2, it is G3 is finally starting to be at a place where with my Pixel 8 Pro where I'm like, okay, I'm not pissed off half the time at my
Hmm.
phone for heat
I know this
reception.
is my daily device, so it's one of those things where I people complain about the Pixel all the time, and I
There
live
it
through
is.
that on a day to day issue. But it. I think people are focusing more on I need to game, and in if you are spending time a lot of time gaming and specifically high end games, then yes, you're going to have a bad experience. But if you're playing Call of Duty Mobile, I can max out the specs on this phone and play for 2 hours without an issue whatsoever because Call of Duty Mobile is a 5-year-old game, right?
Yeah.
But like it's still a great experience. Like, no, you're not going to have the best frame rates on a Genshin Impact, but you're going to get 25, 30 frames per second, and that's where you should be at with this phone, unless you want it to burn up in your hands. But it does okay, and I think a lot of people are talking about with the G4 chipset in the Pixel 9, kind of as just an incremental update over the G3, which it probably is because they're still staying with Samsung to build a chip for them. But the excitement comes with the G5 next year, where they're saying
Right.
they're moving over to TSMC, and I think a 3 nanometer process
Wow.
is the rumor. So like it should be significantly better next year. But if we see some improvements here, no, it's not going to be, on par with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 as far as battery life or performance goes. But if we're going to get a noticeable improvement over what we currently have on the G3, I think that's still a positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. We also have colors that have leaked now. So that pink looking really hot, and black, and some kind of silver gray, and the white. I'm a little bummed that I never got the beautiful blue 8 Pro, and I kind of wanted that to come back because I'm hoping that if I have to buy my own phone,
you didn't have this one.
No, mine is the white one. Team Pixel, just sent us whatever, and can't complain. I still got myself a free, 8 Pro. But yeah, it's the white cream color, whatever it is, with the goldish rim.
Trim.
It's very nice, but I've got it in a purpley case anyway, so it's fine. But look, I'm excited about these phones. I can't wait to see what Team Pixel sends me and where we go from there. Because for me, it's just going to be a matter of like, I'm going to rely on, if I can't get my hands on the Fold like for free, I'm going to have to rely on the early first impressions of you and others that are going to the event and jump in and buy one. That's basically what's going to happen, because I think it's time for me to go full-time Fold. What about you? Do you think you're going to stick with the candy bar format on this one?
I probably will, mainly because I love smaller phones, and I'm
so you're going to the small Pro?
Ecstatic about having a small Pro. I still have, I keep it on my desk all the time. That small Pixel Fold 4. This phone is so tiny and so delightful.
What about the 5? The 5 was also even smaller than that, wasn't it?
It was about the same size, but it was the plastic version, and it was the mid-range chip.
It wasn't a flagship.
And you know what? Speaking of the 5, I have that one on my desk as well.
Wow, dude! Like, are you doing a special Pixel thing that you have all your Pixels?
No,
out?
I'm not. I was just pulling some devices out.
Okay.
You want to know how many phones I currently have on my desk?
No, I know. Same here.
14. I have 14 phones on my desk right now. Scoop
for the listeners and for the viewers. Nick is a bigger Pixel fanboy than I thought he was.
Well, okay, so people will know. Like, I was the original HTC fanboy, and then I went to OnePlus for a little bit and got lost in there, and then HTC killed off building good phones, mainly because Google bought
most of their engineers. Yeah.
Well, their high-end smartphone segment, and with that, I made the shift over to Pixel because it's still the same engineers that are building the phones back in Taipei. So,
yeah,
I'm still an HTC fan, just in the form of Pixel now.
Now, dude, I think I support that. And I'm still very, very, very excited about OnePlus. Every time I handle a OnePlus phone, even the 12R, which at first I was like, that's not for me. I really feel like the 12, especially because I got the 12 to play with first. And I was like, man, that phone is so delightful. After the Open, I was like, oh, this is so good. Finally, we've got a lineup on OnePlus phones that doesn't suck at all anywhere, And then I got the R and I was like, oh, come on. This is basically the one that they're kind of cutting corners on. And I used it and I'm like, oh no. Oh, this is really solid too. So, the bottom line is I can't wait to see what they do for Open 2 at this point. And, but like you, for me, going back to daily driving, I did a bit for a while. I had the OnePlus 8 Pro because it was the first OnePlus with wireless charging as my daily. And I also used the Oppo one of the Find X's. I think it was I want to say the X5, but for a brief time. The problem is that every time I do that, I miss all the Pixel call screening and all these other things. It's like, I'm actually surprised how much of the Pixel experience is stopping me from really jumping ship, kind of like iPhone users, But if you look at the whole list of Pixel experiences, my requirements are really only like a few things related to mostly the phone app. And it's weird because I don't really do that many phone calls, but I do get a lot of people trying to call me, and not talking spam. I'm talking about PR people, whatever. And I like to screen my calls. I like the hold for me feature. I like the calling some kind of automated system and having the whole menu kind of pop up and text in front of me in advance. Like there are little things like that, but they feel so good. And when I'm on a OnePlus, you get you definitely get the spam protection and stuff, but you don't get all of that. And I could live with it, but honestly, might as well, And then the camera. Every time I take a photo with my Pixel, I'm guaranteed that photo is going to be good. Like, it doesn't matter what I do. It's perfect every time.
There are phones that will take better pictures, but you're
sure.
not going to have a bad picture with a Pixel. Like, especially in poor lighting conditions, that's where you know I can just snap the picture. It's not going to be the best option out there, but I know it's going to be something that I'm still going to enjoy and definitely worth sharing on social media.
And that's kind of what keeps me at Pixel right now, despite the G chips being. I mean, the G3 so far hasn't really upset me too much, so I have to say it's getting better. Let's switch gears to Apple because, well, we do have Buds to talk about, but let's talk about that in our little Buds conversation. I want to talk with you about Apple because there's these crazy ass rumors. Okay, so what we know is there's a bunch of iPhone 16s coming out. Nobody seems to care about those. Like there's been some leaks, but it's really not the big deal. It's coming soon. And then 17 though, that next year, there's a bunch of rumors. So there's a rumor of an SE replacing the old SE, which was based on the iPhone 6 and 7 and 8 chassis. And then that one is going to have an OLED screen and a notch finally, and no more home button, and a single rear camera. Basically, it's going to be the budget iPhone. But what's interesting about that is the OLED. Like that's the latest, and I didn't think they were going to go OLED because it's crazy for us to say this, Nick, but like even the cheapest, like CMF Phone 1, right, has an OLED 120 hertz, 100, like 1080p at like $200, right? But in iPhone land, like I wouldn't be surprised if they'd come out with an iPhone SE that had like, just an IPS panel on the front and a single camera on the back. So OLED surprises me a little bit, I have to say.
It does and it doesn't, because as you said, we have some pretty decent devices that are incredibly cheap that have been using the OLED panels for not just this year, but the last couple years now.
Yeah, but mostly in China. We don't even see it in the US, like the N series and the G series from OnePlus and Moto, respectively. Most of them don't have OLEDs until you go
but
above.
I mean, yeah, but like the iPhone, so those G series from Motorola are $200-ish to $300, and they're trying to build in decent profits. You have to remember the iPhone SE is going to be
500. Yeah.
Well, five to 700, depending on what inflation looks like in a year and a half, right?
For sure.
And but at that price point, there's still enough margin in there for them to say, hey, we can actually put in a decent display.
Yeah.
Like Motorola doesn't have enough margin in their $300 phones to say, yeah, let's give it a good display, because no one at that price point is actually looking for a good display, right? They're looking for a good battery life and, the Motorola software experience most of all. But here, the Apple, the prices of these displays have come down so much that I think they can finally give these phones a good display and give people a good experience. Then my question becomes like, do you need the regular iPhone? I mean,
okay. I mean,
if they are, it comes down to they're skimping out on cameras on the back of it.
Yeah,
they're only getting it as single sensor. I do want an ultra wide, or I do want the zoom. Then you have to get the regular iPhone.
Yeah, I think for me, like I agree with you. Like I'm glad they're doing an OLED. I'm just surprised because I was really honestly expecting like that they would take like the iPhone. What was it, 10R, whatever, the really the notch one with an IPS panel, and recycle that chassis with a brand new A chip of some kind, and a better camera sensor, and call it a day. Because that's kind of what Apple would do, And that's why I'm like, okay, this is my expectations are so low with Apple, like trying to really be like the nickel and dime people, that I was kind of like, and my spouse has an iPhone SE, the current one, and they love it, but it's, and there's nothing to when I use it, it's a solid phone, like it's fast. The display, despite being old and not super high res and IPS, is really clear and nice. Is it as bright as it could be? The brightness is where I think we've done leaps and bounds in the last 2 years. Like, to me, I think that's the biggest thing that's changed. I look at the Pixel, 8A. I've been using it for like quite a while now, and I'm like, every time I'm outside, I'm like, holy crap, that display is so bright for an 8A. It's like I'm impressed. Like, and I think, same with like the Moto G Stylus 5G, totally underrated phone. That phone is amazing for the cost. I'm really impressed with it. It could be a little cheaper, but with Moto, it's always on sale anyway. But I think that it's objectively a good phone all around, and it's so bright in daylight. I'm like, wow, like, I think you're right. I think that this has been a turning point in the display industry with the performance of the OLED and the pricing, and they're able to do it. But at the same time, what's more exciting and weird to me is that there's this ultra thin iPhone 17 Slim, or whatever it's going to be called. We've heard rumors of this for a while now, but what kind of is breaking my brain, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is the single rear camera, supposedly, according to on this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's generally right as an analyst. He nails it most of the time. So what do you think they're going to do here? Are they going to have some kind of like way to, like, a very large sensor with a very wide lens, and they're going to be able to do ultra wide, and some tele, maybe 2x, 3x, using image processing, and a larger sensor that has a lot of pixels that they can crop or do pixel binning on, or in distortion correction and all that. What do you think they're going to do here? Because I can't see them not offering an ultra wide. Like, I can see them doing a wide that is good enough to zoom to say 4x. But like, thoughts?
Uh it's it's one of those things where I think my approach would be, let's make it not an ultra wide where we're getting like 14 millimeter, but like take it down to 20-ish millimeter, so you're like halfway between the ultra wide and the standard, and then give it, if the sensor is large enough and capable enough, give it up to 3x pixel binning zoom, and then you kind of bridge the gap between the three sensors. I mean,
Well, that's kind of what I was suggesting. Yeah, like maybe a 200 megapixel Samsung sensor.
Well, it doesn't even have to be 200 megapixel. Like, if you do a 50 megapixel sensor or a 48 megapixel sensor, you should be able to get pretty decent 3x pixel.
Yeah, you might actually be able to get to 4x performance, no problem there.
And I think that bridges the gap, because I like, even especially in low light conditions, we all know the ultra wide doesn't perform well in low light because they're using a smaller sensor. Same goes for the zoom cameras; they don't perform in low light because of the larger sensors. But remember,
with the zoom, as soon as you start cropping the sensor, you no longer have the ability to bin the pixels, so you're losing some.
Yeah, but so it's one of those things though where you can. Yes, you're not binning the pixels, but you are cropping the sensor, and they are larger pixels themselves. So in low light conditions, they can still perform adequately decent, as opposed to a regular, quarter-inch sensor that you get on a 3x camera on on a typical day. And so I think the results will be pretty decent. I mean, and I still like Sony's approach for telephoto with a variable, what was it, 3x to 6x or something like that, with the variable telephoto. And that just gets too complicated for a device that's supposed to be cheaper. And I think they can pull it off. Is it going to be the best iPhone for photos ever? Definitely not. But I think the average person will be happy with the results.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting, and I'm actually all for it. Like, I want to see them pull it off. Like, I'm not against the idea per se. Like, I feel like there is an opportunity here to try something different, and if Apple can pull it off, oh, great, let's do it, right? Like, at the same time, though, I'm also like, come on, okay, like. You've seen now, like the Honor V30 is a good example of a folding phone in this case.
Hmm.
That's 4.7 or 4.8 millimeters thick when opened, just barely bigger than a USB Type C port, basically. And, why couldn't you make a candy bar phone that thick or thin? That also has a triple camera array, since obviously the Honor has that. Now you're going to say the Honor also spreads its battery across two sides, so there is that, and they're using pretty crazy battery technology, which is giving them like 5100 milliamp hour spread across two chassis, right? I get all that, but you don't have to go back too far. The Moto Z, the original, was 5 millimeters thick, right? And it
Hmm.
was fine. It delivered
It
a.
it was fine, but the camera was
But
honestly
this is
bad.
also the camera of Motorola 5 years
Yeah,
ago, right? Like,
yeah.
so you have to adjust for the reverse inflation of technology, as it were. But what I'm saying is that I think people are kind of going nuts about a slim iPhone, and I don't expect it to be much thinner than 5 millimeters, which is thin. Don't get me wrong; it's going to be super sexy and cool, but I think they could do multiple cameras. That's why I'm a little surprised. Like, maybe because they want to maximize battery size and physical size, they're doing one sensor, and they have some kind of trick up their sleeve to do that, right?
No, I think it comes down to price. Like if you don't have to put additional camera modules in, it
Yeah,
just
but
saves
they're going
price
to
on
price the
overall.
crap out of this, right? Because
Oh,
it's Apple.
100%. But this is
Like,
Apple, and they have the highest margins in the game,
it's
and
true.
their bill of materials are lower than most other devices that are half the price, right? They just because they have so much volume that they're pushing. It comes down to price for all of this. I think, like, someone said, "Hey, we can put three cameras in there," and they're like, "Well, each additional camera costs $4." And if you want to put, a large sensor in there, that one's going to be $9. Well, that's an extra $12 of margin that we're losing. Ah, screw it. We can make an extra $20 of margin by removing the cameras and, calling it a super slim phone. I don't think the thinness has anything to do with the cameras. Like, they're two separate points of discussion for the phone. I think
Right.
it comes down just to margins and what margins Apple wants to make off of the device.
Your thoughts and your angle here is very possible and correct. I'm thinking more along the lines of they want to maximize the volume of the phone, considering it's really thin, to have good battery life. So they need space for the battery, and they may need space for, who knows what else they need to put in there. Maybe I know that the notch has gotten smaller with the current little oval opening, and so but maybe they still need quite a bit of space for that inside the phone. So I'm thinking maybe it's also a technical reason where they're like,
Yeah.
okay, look, we can both save money, and we have now the technical chops in terms of the
Mhm.
camera hardware and software to do what you suggested, like not quite the ultra wide, but almost, and zooming and all that, and pixel binning and all the good stuff. Uh, and or maybe they have something completely different. Maybe like one of the optics slash sensor manufacturers has a new trick up their sleeve, and they've worked with Apple together to make this happen. Like Apple's done this before. Sometimes they really do innovate. Sometimes they don't just follow. So I'm actually
Mhm.
kind of looking forward to seeing how this pans out. Also, I just want to add that I think that it's possible that Apple is just like, kind of spitballing here, and just being like, forget it. We're just going to give them one camera because it's the slimmest phone and it's cool. And we're not going to get any of the cool features. And we're just going to be like, what are you doing, Apple? Like, seriously? Like the iPhone SE has a single camera, and nobody seems to complain too much about that in Apple land anyway. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
Honestly, we are still, what, 14
Months
months
away.
ish
Yeah.
out. It could turn out that this rumor is just a rumor and none of it fleshes out. So we'll have to wait and see how it progresses over the next year or so as we get closer to it. Because I like, if we're learning this now, we're going to be seeing a lot more details coming up.
True.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this evolves over the next
I
14
can't
months.
wait for Phil Scher to come on stage and tell us about Courage when they announce that
We have the
it's
courage to only
it's a
put
single
one camera.
and it's just a wide angle.
Oh man, man,
Sorry.
courage.
Okay, let's talk about this folding iPhone rumor, because honestly, that's got me even more excited. Like, I had this conversation with my guest last week on how I think that, how Android is kind of disappearing from the hands of teenagers in North America. Like, we're really turning into an iPhone almost monopoly at certain age ranges in this country, right? And this is Canada as well. This is some parts of the West in Europe as well, right? Like, where people just want iPhones, young people, and Android's kind of losing ground because of that. And so we were talking about that, and I said, if Apple made a flip style folding phone, it'd be game over. Like, that would be, I think, the end of Android in many ways, because only us old fogies would want to have Android phones anymore, right? I was joking partially, but I want to hear your thoughts on that. And I also want to hear your thoughts on, we've had this on and off rumor for this folding iPhone. And I think part of me is like, Apple's never going to do it, because why would they care? Like, they have great profit margins, great market share. They don't need to make a folding phone. But at the same time, their form factors are getting a little boring, and maybe it's time for them to make a folding phone. And maybe they finally have the enough ruggedness that they can feel that they can make this a product for their customers, and that they want to kind of take that one thing away from Samsung, who's kind of really the leader in folding phones, at least in the West, right? And kind of yank the carpet from under their feet and say, we're in the game now. Like, where do you like? I really don't know how to put this. Like, first of all, the rumor could be completely wrong. If it's a rumor, but my gut tells me that yes, they're going to do it, and yes, they're going to do it, and it's going to be typical Apple. Like, from then on, everybody's going to be like, yeah, of course, folding phones, and some people are going to buy it, just like some people buy an SE, some people buy a 15, some people buy a 15 Pro.
I think it's really hard to say, because the only reason Apple would go down this path would be if it feels like they are losing market share to Android because of foldable devices. And also, if they have something that will make it different from the current lineup of foldable Android devices. Because Apple, yes, they do follow a lot in a lot of different ways when it comes to, hardware and, components and things like that. They wait until a segment is mature before they start picking things out of it. But they do it for a reason, and a specific reason. And I don't think they would put out a device just because it's me too. Like, they would want to put out a device because they have something else to offer. I don't know what that would be, but also, like, just because. So this rumor is basically saying they've started the development phase of a foldable iPhone, so it should be 2026, given a 2-year development cycle. It could be that they're going to take 5 years to develop this. Like, there's no. So what they're saying is, with this rumor, they're starting to look at it, which means it's not coming next year, but maybe the year after. But it could be another 4 years until we actually see it. And I, for as much as I love foldable devices, I've got 1, 2, 3.
Show that to the Patreons. Come on, you got to show them all. Oh my God.
5 and 6 6 and 7 foldable devices on my desk right now, because I was working on a short form video.
So, assignment for the Patreons who are watching, you now need to name all these
name
phones.
Every single one.
That's right.
Every single one. But like, I love the concept of these devices and what they can do and how they are different. But for the most part, most foldables don't add much to the user experience besides a glanceable display on the outside, and also a different way to use your camera, because you can now use that main camera, which is better than, as opposed to the selfie camera when you're taking pictures of yourself or videos of yourself. So for a content creator, they're really good in that aspect. But is Apple actually losing market share because of foldables?
Oh no,
And
no.
so that's where I'm like, well, would they? So Apple fans have already bought Apple iPhones. Would they simply be taking market share from themselves? And so instead of buying a regular iPhone, they're going to be buying a foldable that's $300 more expensive. And so they're
And
just
make
looking to.
more money.
So it becomes like, are we doing it because we're trying to gain market share and make money that way? Or are we doing it just to increase our margins and revenue within our current category and current customers? And both of them are legitimate, but if that's all they're actually doing, that makes me sad, because that means they're not going to be winning from the competition. They're just upgrading current customers.
I think that's most likely what it is. I think that they're, especially in Asia and China, right? Where they're losing a bit of ground. I think the folding phones are much more popular and the competition is fiercer. And I think that they are looking at that and going like, we could make more money and we can satisfy some demand in some areas. And at the same time, we screw over Samsung, in the West, right? Because at that point, it's game over, right? I'm sorry, but it's true.
Well, I don't think it's game over, because it's people who are buying a Samsung foldable are making a conscious decision not to buy an iPhone. Like, I don't think they're iPhone users. They're Samsung users who just upgraded within the Samsung camp. Like, no one gave up iOS for One UI.
Well, I know quite a few people who, well, not quite a few. I know a few people that have gone from an iPhone to a Samsung Flip. I also know a few people who've been eyeing the flips and the folds very, very strongly and are iPhone users and are waiting direly for Apple to make a folding phone.
Yeah.
So I think there's some demand potentially. It's not huge. Yeah, I don't know.
And just one more. I have 8, not 7.
Jeez. Were they all? I didn't catch the beginning because I was looking at my notes. Were these all flips?
These were all flips.
Oh my goodness!
These were all flips.
Okay, so wait, you included some old phones in there. You had some old phones in there. Come on.
I've got some old. Well, nothing more than 2 years old.
Okay, yeah. So it wasn't. Okay. Okay, so you got Moto Razr 24, 24 Plus. You have last year's Razrs. I see last year's Razrs, both of them. You have the Oppo. Do you have both the Oppos in there? No, just
yes,
one.
Both the
Oppos are in there. I don't see the other one.
Oppo.
Oh, it's black. That's why I didn't see it. And then you have
Oppo.
Wait. You have of course you have the Galaxies, both of them, last year's and this year's, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've already done the Razrs. Do you have like the Black View? Do you have any of the weird ones like the Black View or the ZTE? Do you have the ZTE one?
So I don't have the ZTE out here. I sent it to my editor in the UK, but yeah, that's another one that I had. And I sent him 2 more. And then not the Blackview one. It was the Nubia one.
Yeah, the ZTE one.
Yeah.
Nubia ZTE. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, because I have
just
all
too
of those.
Many.
Like all of the ones you have, I have. But since I'm in Vancouver, I only have the Razrs and the Z Flip 6 with me right now, because I have left the other ones down in San Francisco. But I do have a bunch of folding phones here as well. So, you and I could compete and probably get to about the same amount because we're both obsessed with phones. As I said,
having all the color collections.
I put a poll up on Threads asking people if they're phone whores like me. So you should check that out, folks. You should respond. Anyway, let's quickly talk about earbuds. Where do you think we're going? Like, and let's not even talk about specific earbuds because I got the OnePlus Nord Buds Pro 3 or whatever they're called. I've got the Samsung Galaxy Buds 3 Pro, which by the way are very, 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 very good. Possibly some of the best I've had so far, short of going to Sony WF series. But I'm very impressed with the Nothing still. The Ear and Ear A, the current Ear set, both of them, the cheap one and the more expensive one, even though they have a different feature set. Overall, very happy with both. I'm very happy with the OnePlus Nord Buds for their price. I'm happy with the previous OnePlus Buds 3. I'm also happy with these Galaxy Buds. So where do you think we're going? Because the price here is crazy, right? You get the CMF Buds, which are like $60 or $70 or something, and you love them. So, like,
Yes.
are we ever going to get to a point where, because to me, it sounds like if I listen to Ear A, which are $100, like they sound so close to like $250 earbuds to me. Like, why would I spend $250? Like, what's the reason at this point?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think it's such a mature category where there is so much room to play with profit margins that it allows some brands to just really outshine the competition because they say, "Hey, I can put out." In the case of the most recent ones that I'm using is the
CMF.
CMF by Nothing Buds Pro 2, and those are $60. They have ANC, they have um, incredible design, great audio quality,
Yeah, Jason
and
showed us
it's
last week with the little wheel on the thing. Yeah.
yeah, you got this little fidget wheel that is absolutely adorable and fun to play with. It clicks as you spin it, and it's I don't know, it's one of those things where they even spent the extra time to give you a good design and a great case where they didn't have to do any of that, and they still sold it for $60, which means everybody else who's selling you buds for $200, they're just saying, "Hey,
Ripping you off.
we have $180 of profit margin on these products," which is absolutely ridiculous. But it makes me more excited for these other cheaper options because they can actually still differentiate themselves. There's still enough room in the margins there where they can focus on design and focus on audio quality, even give us, in some cases, wireless charging for the cases. It's and I don't mind that there's options for $200 because if you want to spend it, but it makes it incredibly exciting because you don't have to spend $250 for a good pair of
Exactly.
earbuds.
Yeah.
But it just shows that the people at the top need to be a little bit more creative in how they're differentiating their products in order to make them more appealing. Because honestly, if I can buy these Buds Pro 2 from Nothing, the CMF versions, and be completely happy with them, why would I spend $200? There's no reason to.
That's what I'm saying. And,
The only thing I'm disappointed with is they sent me the blue ones, and I
oh,
really, really wanted the
the,
orange
the
coral
orange
ones.
ones. Yeah. Well, I'm going to
Yeah,
see.
I know.
I've asked Jane. Initially, Jane was we were waiting for her to be able to send me the phone as well. And it looks like that's going to be delayed a bit. So she's actually sending me the buds and the watch now, and then the phone later. So stay tuned, folks. I'm looking forward to those. But immediately in the near future, I have to say, look, on face value, the Buds 3 Pro from Samsung are really good. Like they're so good at ANC, so good at sound quality once EQ'd a little bit, so good at just all the things you'd want that I can understand as a branded Samsung, that they can charge $250. Would I spend that myself? No. I would buy
Mm-mm.
Ears A from Nothing, or yeah, probably that's what I would buy right now. Short of the CMF Buds blowing me away, I would probably stick with Nothing right now. I think that's the best bang for your buck. If you want to go high end, buy the Ear. If you want to go a little lower end, just feature wise, you're not losing anything on ANC or sound quality. Go for Ear A. And at that price point, that makes sense. $100, $150. That's a lot cheaper. But I'm telling you this: if you're out there, even if you're not an iPhone user and you're on, AirPod Pros right now, get the fuck out, because like you're definitely not having the best experience. You're not having the best earbuds. You're spending way too much money on them. I strongly recommend, if you're an iPhone person, consider looking at, if you're going to spend that kind of money, I actually think that if you're going to spend $250 on AirPods Pros, buy Buy the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro. They're better. And if you're not going to spend that kind of money, buy the Nothing Ear. The only thing you lose, and it's such a minor thing, honestly, is like this weird, crazy ability that the AirPods have to jump from device to device. And honestly, how hard is that to do? You just freaking like reconnect in the Bluetooth menu to the earbuds and you're set. Like it takes 2 seconds.
Well, I think also the tracking.
No, they all have 3D audio. All of these buds we talked about.
No, not that. The Find My tracking.
Well, Samsung has the Find My.
Yeah, but then you have to have Samsung. Like if you're using an iPhone and you're in, like I get the whole thing of staying in the ecosystem. It makes the user experience better.
I get it, but not for that kind of money. Not for that kind of money. It's not worth it.
Not for that kind of money. And so here's the thing, and this is where I think where Samsung can justify their pricing is mainly most of Samsung's buds are going to be heavily discounted or given away for free when you buy a Samsung phone. You know, they have those deals all the time. Buy the Samsung phone, get $100 off the phone, and then also get these $300 pair of earbuds included for free as a gift from us. You know, thanks for buying our phone. And most, sad to say, that's how they justify the price, is saying, we are making you a better deal than everybody else. We're giving you a $300 pair of earbuds for free, but most people are never going to pay that $300 price.
That is also true. That is also very true.
I think
bundled.
It's the bundled perceived value of the product rather than the actual value of the product.
It's like Moto. You never buy a Moto phone at full price.
No, and just like a Pixel, like you get a Pixel and like 1 month later or 1 week later, it's like, hey, it's $150 off. You're like, wait a second, I just paid full price for that.
I know.
Yeah, so I think that's where, especially Samsung gets away with this, because I don't think Samsung has a huge earbud business. They have a huge tie-in business with their earbuds to add value to the transaction. No one's, I think very few people are going to the store saying, I want to buy Samsung earbuds.
Yeah,
they're going out and buying. They're going out and buying JBLs. They're buying
Sony's. Like Sony is the poster child for people who actually buy Sony earbuds because they're Sony earbuds.
Correct. But like, there's all these other brands. There's a lot of competition, which is amazing because not a whole lot of other segments actually have true competition. And you walk into a Best Buy, and there's most people are walking down the streets with AirPods in. But if you go look to buy something, there are so many options. And unless you are specifically looking for AirPods, there's great options out there that are going to give you a much better user experience and greater audio as well.
Yeah, that's my thing for me, is like, really, like, I've got nothing against the AirPods Pro per se. They're fine, but they're not $250 fine. I'm sorry. Like, they're $100 fine at best. And, I realize also a lot of people just, buy them kind of because, they don't know better, and that's fine. But like, maybe do a bit of research, because there's so much, like, that's such a breadth, like $60 CMF all the way to like $250 for the Samsung Buds 3 Pro. And the delta between those two in terms of everything is very small. Like, yes, you get wireless charging on the Samsung. Yes, you get like 3D audio. Yes, you get a whole bunch of little things. But these are the things that are going to make a big difference when you use them day to day,
Yeah. Well, just for comparison, you could get the CMF Buds 2 Pro or Pro 2. All these brands changing up where the 2s and the 3s go versus before or after is driving me nuts. But you could get 4 pairs of them. You could get each color. So for your entire family, husband, wife, daughter.
No, for yourself, just to change colors day to day.
Oh, or yourself. Or maybe I need to
match your outfit.
See if I can get a second pair and see if I can have them sync 2 different colors to the same case. And then, have the orange and the blue together. But like, maybe doing something crazy like that, but that's still going to be cheaper than the AirPods Pro. Right.
100%.
And literally, you could mix and match it with your outfit and be cheaper, or buy them for your entire family and it would be the price of one from Apple or even Samsung for that matter.
Crazy. So the competition is going to heat up in the Buds field because we're going to get the Pixel Buds Pro 2. Also, it looks like they've leaked now, and they come in pretty colors. There's a pink matching the pink Pixel 9 Pro or whatever it is. But here's the interesting thing: the case stays white. So
case stays white.
So yeah,
let's see what that.
Yeah, me too.
I've liked the little egg case that they've had for the last couple generations.
And I love the minty green ones. They're looking good. Don't buy the black or the white ones, guys. Get colors. Colors. Come on. Anyway, we'll see what the Google brings to the table soon. Let's jump through some quick news items and finish up things with that. Just this is more PSA style stuff here. So Xiaomi Mix Fold 4 and Mix Flip are official now. We talked about them at length last show, so we pretty much know what to expect, right? But they exist and they're real. And the best part is some of these right now are coming to the West. The Flips is confirmed to come to the parts of Europe. So that's actually good news. I don't know if the Fold is going to leave China. But you've seen the hands-ons, right? What do you think? This is looking pretty hot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they compete in the Western markets when it comes to pricing, because Xiaomi's always had not necessarily a price advantage on all of their devices, but on their mid-range devices, they've had a good price advantage over Samsung. And then you get into their high-end versions of their devices, and you're like, okay, I don't want to spend $5,000 on a phone. But they're amazing.
You don't?
Just to be clear, they're not $5,000 phone, but you can spend up to $1,800 on some of their ultra devices, right?
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see how these prices convert, because you can never take a Chinese price for a device and figure out what it's going to be for Europe. You actually have to wait for that price to be announced, because it never translates, no matter how many mental math gymnastics you can do. You can't really work it out. But if they actually come out and are competitive with Samsung's flip phones in Europe, and I think they will, even with these specs being higher in some of the cases, I think they'll have a chance as long as they put some marketing dollars behind them.
Yeah, and that's the big question, right? Like, I mean, there's no doubt from a technical know-how and perspective that these are going to be totally competitive with the best of the best right now, which I think is Razer, in terms of the Flip, and of course OnePlus and Oppo in terms of Fold, right? I mean, Samsung exists, but I don't think they're as competitive in terms of their spec sheet and their product right now. So I think that, also you have to kind of Honor into this, and Honor has also a Flip coming soon. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that you're right. It's a matter of marketing it, because in the absolute value, once we have the phones in our hands, they're going to be amazing. It's a question of how can they sell them, and can they sell them beyond China and just a few markets in the world, and be successful and take some market share away from the competition. I'm rooting for them, because who doesn't want a folding phone with Leica lenses and cameras? Who doesn't want a folding phone with the biggest front cover screen on the Flip? Who doesn't want the one of the thinnest folding book style phones with the Fold 4 here? So it's all very exciting to me. And also what's interesting is that at the same event, they announced the Redmi K70 Extreme Edition. We thought that phone was going to be called the Ultra, but now it's called Extreme Edition. And it's basically Dimensity 9300 plus based affordable flagship. The camera system is honestly very similar to the Poco F6 Pro. So it's basically a Poco F6 Pro with a beefed up Dimensity 9300 plus instead of Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in there. Very similar chassis, very similar design. So if you're in a market that sells Redmi and you're looking for a really affordable, kick-ass, flagship-like device, this might be the ticket. Interestingly, by the way, since we're comparing that with a Poco, the F6 Pro from Poco has a 1440p Quad HD display at 120 hertz. This only has a 1220, like a between 1080p and Quad HD display at 144 hertz. Both are very bright though, 4000 nits. It's really interesting how Like Xiaomi's really still, I think, we talk about BBK sharing things, but I really think Xiaomi is like the mastermind behind part spinning. Like this thing is unbelievably part spinned. Like it's like literally you're looking at your parts in front of you on a wall of drawers and going like this, a bit of this and a bit of this. Boom, new phone.
Hey, if it works, it works.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's really interesting because they really did it on this one. The other thing I want to point out is keep an eye or ear out for July 31st next week. Nothing Phone 2A Plus is coming. And interestingly, I want your thoughts on this because Nothing has officially confirmed that this has a MediaTek Dimensity 7350 Pro, which is slightly better than the 7300 in the CMF Phone 1. What's going on here? Dude, why does this phone even need to exist? I mean, no offense, I'm a big fan of Nothing. Like, can you explain to me why? Like, how can they make any money here?
I think it's going to come down to price. I think
yeah, but they can't price it much lower than the original, and it's already very close to the Nothing CMF Phone 1.
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly how what their thought process is, but I think they're trying to really step into, and for as much as we like high-end phones, I think they've realized that their bread and butter is going to be this mid-range to low-end segment. I mean, you look at Samsung's lineup and they have, their best mid-range device from Samsung is the A50 whatever, but they sell 3 times more their A20 series and their A30 series than they do the 50
M series or
right?
the J series or whatever they have. Yeah.
And let's not even talking about those, letter series, right? And I think this is where they honestly can move the most volume. And, when you're a small player, it is all about volume. That's where you're going to get better deals with, the manufacturers actually putting together your phones, when you're going to get the better deals from the chipset makers when you're buying more devices or more chips and get the discounts there, rather than, hey, we sold 100,000 high-end phones, can you give us a discount? Or we sold 3 million low-end phones. It just gives them a better playing field to play in, because honestly, most people buying Android devices are buying low-end to mid-range devices. They're not spending $1,800 on high-end phones. So, as from a business perspective, not an Android fanboy, I want the best and greatest phone ever. But from a business perspective, this makes complete sense. It might be $20 cheaper than another phone and $30 more expensive than another phone in their same lineup. But you walk into a store and you see 3 options from Nothing, you have 3 times more chances to buy a Nothing phone than you would if you only had one. Right?
Yeah, and that's true in India in particular, where they're very strong, right? So
yeah, that's true in Europe as well. I mean, you go to European versions of Best Buys and you walk through and they have 80 phones that are all priced within $20 of each other. And it's magic. Like, which one looks prettier and which one am I going to buy? And yes, it's a completely magical experience if you love phones. Like, just go to Europe and browse the stores because they're amazing. And it's even better when you go over to Asia.
Even carrier stores are like that, which is amazing. So, my gut here is this. They are very competitive in these markets, right? India and some parts of Europe. And the Nothing Phone 2A is getting a little old now. Not super old, but it's getting a bit old in that range. And they can get a new chip in it because they have a good relationship with MediaTek. MediaTek says, here, let's put this in there. It's a minor revision because before that it was a Dimensity 7200, and also it looks good on paper because it's a slightly better spec chip than the 7300 in the CMF Phone 1, right? So to me, this just looks like an update. It's going to be the same chassis, same performance, same battery, same camera, same everything else. They're just putting a slightly better chip in there. They might change the price slightly, probably drop it a little bit, but it's already so close. in terms of pricing with the CMF phone, that I don't think we're going to see a huge delta here. Let's see what happens. But I just want to put it on people's radar. If you haven't bought a Nothing Phone 2A yet and you were looking at it, thinking about it, this might be your ticket to wait for this improved version. Also, we have a bunch of other phones. Well, actually, no, we only have one more left in my list here. It's the Vivo V40. And the reason I bring up the Vivo V series is, I don't know if I talked to you about this, Nick, before, but I have played with almost every Vivo V series. Somehow they always send them to me. And it's always been kind of meh. Last year's V30 Pro, though, not last year, like earlier this year, because it's like another one. It's like the Reno series. Every 6 months, there's a new phone. Like Vivo has V series every 6 months, it seems like, anyway. So the V30 Pro really impressed me with the cameras. It has a lot of the features from their X series, right? Like the Zeiss branding, the Zeiss optics, the Zeiss color science and all that. And I took some incredibly great photos with that phone. I was like, wow. So the first V series where I was like, it's not meh. Like it felt like a complete package at the mid-range with really good camera chops. Think Realme. You know how Realme always has that 12 Pro Plus, and then there's a 13 Pro Plus coming. And it's always a camera-centric, affordable, mid-range budget, whatever you want to call it, like, $350 phone. I think that's what the V series is. So the V40's got me excited because they're digging into this camera stuff. They're going, we're going to go nuts. And they're giving 4 50 megapixel sensors in this, always Zeiss. There's a 50 megapixel front and then 3 50 megapixels in the back, including, OIS on the main, a portrait lens and an ultra wide that's 50. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. They're supposedly sending me one, so see how it goes. What's your thought on this V series?
As you said, like they release them every 6 months or so, and it's hard to keep up with them. I did get I got 2 from last year, and no, like overall, the phones aren't really that impressive, but they do typically stand out for the price with the cameras, which is great. My issue comes down a little bit to the software on the Vivo devices.
Oh yeah, always.
From all the BBK family, the Vivo devices are the ones, they're like the stepchild over in their own corner doing their own thing. And from a software perspective, I don't think it's worked out for them. From a camera perspective, I think they're leading the pack in the group, right? But from a software perspective, they're a little bit too far removed. Where
they're the most Chinese software of all the BBK group.
Yes, correct. Yeah, even the Chinese variants of the Oppo phones are easier
not
to
as
use
offensive.
Well, they're not as offensive as the European variants of the Vivo phones.
That's what I'm saying.
Like it's ridiculous. So I don't know what it is, but if they can improve the software experience, I think it's going to be a great device. But looking at this rumor and
this is actually they tease this. This is not a rumor. This is a tease. Like they actually.
Oh, this was okay.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy to me. So they gave us the camera specs, they gave us the colors, they gave us the charging and battery, 5,500 milliamp hour, and it's a very thin phone too, 80-watt charging. So I love the colors, I love the design. I think this camera.
I was looking down there and seeing the purple in there. I was like, oh, that looks beautiful.
I know, that's what I'm saying, Lotus purple. So it's coming soon. They haven't even given me, even though they said we're sending you a phone, they haven't given me a date at all. So I have no idea what to expect here. But stay tuned, because look, if you are in a market where they sell this and you want good cameras at an affordable price and you don't want to go the Realme route, which would be my recommendation right now, or a Pixel 8a or something, this might be it for you. So check it out. All right. I think we've covered everything, Nick. Thanks again for dropping in at the last second. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet and what you do at Phandroid and all the social media goodness that you create? Because your charging tests are always my favorite.
Well, thank you. You can find all of my work and my team's work over on phandroid.com, or else if you want to watch our video content, youtube.com/Phandroid or Phandroids with an S on Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome. So, folks, go and check this out. And don't forget to subscribe to the Phandroid YouTube channel. Read the website for your news. Check out the social media. Nick's TikTok game is mwah. So check it out. I'm not a TikTok person, but every time I see your videos, because I think you cross-publish them or you post something about them,
I'm
they're
all posted on all three.
Yeah, it's awesome. And folks, you know where to find me on the internet. I'm at Tankgirl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character. Just drop all the vowels. And I'm on Twitter, on Threads, on Blue Sky, on Instagram. Everywhere that, social media exists, you'll find me. So, follow me there, chat with me and Nick on social. And remember, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com or on all the major platforms. If you want to subscribe, tell your friends and all that good stuff, make this a regular thing for you. There's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast, where obviously, posting some videos. I've got hands-ons on the Samsung stuff and the Moto stuff most recently. So I try to keep some videos there, some unboxings and stuff like that. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment about the podcast if you'd like. Finally, there's a Patreon. We mentioned it throughout the show. If you want to get a video version of the podcast, sometimes it runs a little longer because there's extra content. Sometimes there's bloopers. Also, you get to see our faces. You get to see the devices sometimes, like the incredible spread of flip phones that Nick just showed today. That's quite something. So if you want to get that in advance, like a day or so in advance every week, there is a Patreon you can join, patreon.com/Tankgirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. $5 a month buys you the video version. There's other tiers for other goodies. Check it out. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And finally, thanks again, Nick, for rescuing me at the last minute and joining the party. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure to be on. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll have Nick on again at some point soon, folks. And of course, I'll have another show next week. So stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.